Welcome to the Eli Farney Show. Hello, welcome back to the Eli Farney Show. So this is going to be a very special episode, episode 9. This is my chance to have a guest on for the very first time. So this is another professional actor. He's also a playwright and a fellow graduate of the School of Drama and a very, very good friend of mine, Mr. Spencer Morgan. How you doing, buddy?
Hello. I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm doing really good. I'm glad to have you on the show. I'm glad to have you be my first person ever on the show.
Glad to be here.
We're going to dive right in, buddy. Obviously, we're both actors, and that's a pretty big part of our life. So would you just tell me about, how you kind of got into that and your origin story, I suppose, as an actor?
Yeah, so I started out acting in middle school. I saw my brother do it, and I'm the little brother of the two. And so I was just like, hey, I want to do that, as a kid does. And then, so I did that through middle and high school, and then didn't know what else to do when I graduated, and so I went to college because I was like, this is the only thing that I really see myself doing.
I mean, I feel like I was kind of the same way as I knew that there was nothing else that I was going to be able to do,
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Because I've done a lot of stuff in sales and whatnot, and you've done different restaurant jobs, so I guess what is it about acting that feels so it for you?
I think there's there's something about stepping into that other life, and I think a lot of it also has to do with the community that acting builds in the theater community. Just everybody is so accepting and caring for the most part, and we really look out for each other in a way that I don't see a lot of other people do. I see a lot of people struggling to find community, and I just found it so early that I was like, I don't want to leave this,
Even when we went to Chicago too, I feel like all the people that we met and interacted with were I just started to get the picture very quickly about how it actually worked, It's just a community of people that like doing acting and stuff, and they just want you to be a part of it rather than this it's not, I mean, it is cutthroat for sure, but it's not, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. There's not enemies really in acting as so much as there is just competition. I feel like in a lot of other different styles of work, your competition is seen as a kind of enemy, and I don't think we really do that so much in acting, or at least we try not to. I think the most healthy actors do not do that.
Well, Spencer, let me ask you. I mean, as a young actor, especially we just got out of college, how are you doing just with life and doing your day to day, and what have you been experiencing?
Good. I'm not doing a whole lot of stuff right now. I'm trying to stay plugged in. Really what I'm doing is I'm just back home saving up money before I move. But I stay plugged in with my mentor, Dr. Joe Alberti. He and I teach acting to some people in Budapest on Zoom on Saturday mornings, and we're starting a voice class on Friday afternoons, I believe, this coming fall. So we'll have another semester of classes. And I stay writing. I have written a new one-act play based off the restaurant that I'm working in, and I have not told anybody in that restaurant that I turned them all into characters.
Well, I guess, that's a good as jumping point as ever. I'd love for us to just dive into the Gister method, our experience with that, and just why, what is it? You know what I mean? Why is it so important to us?
Yeah, so that's the methodology that, for those who don't know, that's the methodology that I teach with my mentor, Joe Alberti. He learned it from Earl Gister during his time at Yale. Gister was a master acting teacher who developed the methodology during his time there between the 70s and the 90s, Joe being there during the 90s and the latter half of his years. And I've been very blessed to be able to listen to some of the original recordings of Gister's class, as we're working on transcribing them and creating a database for people to access and hear about the methodology from the horse's mouth. And so what it boils down to is it begins with the play, and it's all about the play. So you start by reading the play 3 times. The first time you read it, it's just a general wash. What are you experiencing as an audience member? And that's helpful because it clues you into what you want your audience to be experiencing when you perform it. And then the second time you read the play, you're looking for the facts, the given circumstances, as they're called, or like the who, the where, the what, like where am I, when am I there, and also different things about how sometimes the way or things that other characters say about your character, but you do have to be careful with that just because characters have agendas and different perspectives as people do. So some things are not as objective. So you have to really think about what is said about your character. What do you think is true and a fact, and what is the opinion of a character? Because you really want the facts in this scenario. And then the third time you read it, so the first time is just a general wash. Second time is what you want to is looking for the facts, and then the third time is from the perspective of your character. So you're reading it, trying to step into the character's feet, into their shoes, rather, not step into their feet, step into their shoes, and really see what their world is like, so you can start to connect to that who am I and let that start to drop into you. And then you ask some questions like what I was talking about earlier, the who am I, defined by your character relationships, defined by your likes and your dislikes. That comes from your third reading. And then you've got what do I want? And that's what we call an objective, what you're trying to achieve in a given scene, and then a super objective, which is found much later down the line in the process, what you want throughout the entire play. And then you've got how do I get what I want? That's our actions. And in Gister, action is defined differently. Like in Stanislavski, action is a verb. What are you doing to somebody? Gister steps away from that because it believes that when you think about the actions in a way of what am I doing, it becomes too much about yourself and too much about the way you're behaving, and you start to focus more on yourself and you disconnect from your scene partner. So we define action as how do I want to make the other person in the scene feel, and it's always that way. So the actions are emotions. Like I want to make somebody feel guilty. I want to make them feel outraged, unwanted, loved, comforted.
Can you talk about for you, like, what was the experience like of actually starting to figure that out? Because it's one thing to say, like, I want to make someone feel guilty, and then you actually start doing it, and sometimes it's like, I'm still acting, like I'm still playing something, or it even becomes about me. Like in the zoo story, we kind of experienced some of that stuff. So for you, like, what is the difference between really releasing action versus just kind of more of a action verb approach?
Yeah, so one of the things we also talk about in Gister is these circles of energy. You've got circle 1, circle 2, and circle 3. Circle 1 is where your energy is all tied up in yourself, and you're thinking about yourself, and I think that's what a lot of other methodologies can cause. Circle 2 is where you're connected with your partner, and circle 3 is where you're blowing past them. So we want to live in that circle 2 realm. And certainly there are times when a character has circle 3 or circle 1 energy, but the actor themselves wants to stay in circle 2 where they're connected to their partner. And that idea of the energy and the connection is really helpful for me when I think about releasing action, because there is, when you're acting, a palpable energy on the stage. You know, people see it, people feel it. And so it's learning to give in to that. I think we experience a lot of internal resistance, which I know you've been talking about, internal resistance, which gets us stuck in those other circles, circle 1 or circle 2. But when you've really let a character drop in, you can just feel the difference. It's hard to describe. One of the things that really helped me was I started to realize when I felt different emotions in different parts of my body. Like when I watch somebody get hurt and I'm empathizing with the fact that they're hurt physically and it looks like a bad pain, I feel it in my tailbone. Like I don't know why, like my tailbone tingles when I watch a video of someone like get hit in the shins with a scooter. And guilt lives in like the pit of my chest. So realizing where those things live and connecting to that part of your body as well and feeling that there helps me release that energy out, but staying connected. And eye contact is another big part that really got me where I was going when I started out just connecting to the partner visually and making sure you're locked in with them.
Yeah, I'm experiencing something kind of interesting because, like I talked about on the last episode, I just seen what Chris posted about like making big choices, and I've got this interesting feeling because I'm still very rooted in Gister and how I want to make people feel, and I feel like I'm executing the action I'm releasing, but I'm not so sure if it's still hitting that line between like a big bold choice and also believable. You know what I mean? It's kind of a
Yeah.
fine line. I mean, what would you say, like, what do you think people are looking for as far as bold choice? What does that really mean?
I think a bold choice, I don't think bold necessarily means big. I think making a bold choice is as simple as coming in with an idea that you're committed to and fully committing to it. You could, like, your bold choice could be small. My bold choice could be the way, like, the glance that I take at a certain point. That reveals something. It's particularly on camera, they can be so much smaller because it's right in your face. But the boldness comes from the commitment and the belief that what you're doing works, and is not necessarily from the size of it.
Now I want to transition. We'll kind of just slowly ease in from kind of acting business into just like, real deep Eli Farney show stuff. Nice, good thinkers. I guess right off the bat, is there anything that like it's just been in your head lately, or anything you've seen in any of the episodes you're like, oh, this is interesting?
I've really, mostly what I've been talking about lately, because I sit on the porch with my mother and have coffee every morning, because I get up really early. I wake up like 5:36 most mornings, and so I go out and sit out there, and it's really nice, and we talk, and I've just been talking a lot about like these ideas, because there's so many different philosophies in life of like, I think a lot of what it boils down to is, are you looking out for yourself or are you looking out for others? And I don't know. I think there are specific times for each of those things, but I think generally the idea is if we're all looking out for others, societally, systemically, just in our day to day, everybody benefits. And there is less need to look after yourself. Now, there is always airplane rules. You can't help somebody if you're not helping yourself first. So it's like a delicate balance to walk, and that's been something that's been on my mind a lot lately.
Yeah, I mean, I think that as you see, like, just growing up and seeing two different political parties, you know what I mean? Kind of, it almost is like there's these two ideas of how to handle things. You see all these problems and all these, like, vastly different ideas about how to do stuff. And I think, without really expressing an opinion, just an observation would be that one side is a little bit more pull yourself up by the bootstraps, like, everyone take care of their own, like, take care of you and yours. And the other side is typically going to be a little bit more like, hey, like, just social program focused, or, you know what I mean? Like, more kind of the, like, common welfare. And I think that both of them have their pros and cons, or, like, have their challenges. Like, they both have aspects of truth that kind of make sense. Like you say, like, you have to be somewhat self-sustaining. Like, we can't necessarily just, we can't have everyone being reliant on everyone else, but at the same time, like, everyone does need everybody, and everyone does need somebody, and we are, like, I think we're just inherently social creatures that
absolutely
need, you know what I mean? It's such a hard balance, because, like, how do you determine what you got to factor in, like, personal choice of, I mean, it can really easily get complicated fast, but I mean, what is it? Do you feel like a desire to just change the world around you? Do you feel like just a resistance to what you're experiencing, or what is it truly that you feel when you think and talk about that stuff?
I think that we do too little looking out for ourselves, or looking out for each other. I mean, we do I think we fall into the trap of doing too much looking out for ourselves. And I think about that. One of the other things that I've been thinking about is also just like segueing in, it's not enough to be upset with what's going on. You have to ask yourself, why is it happening? So I've been thinking a lot about, like, okay, why is this happening? Why are these things happening in the world that I'm so upset about? Like, why are people acting this way? What causes it? And trying to understand that other perspective, which I think acting helps a lot with too. That idea of stepping into somebody else's perspective just opens your mind up a little bit more. But I was thinking about like the starvation mentality that humans have. And so when a person is starving, after they've starved for a while, even if they move into a better situation, they tend to hoard and eat food more often. And so you see people who get like after moving from a point where they were starving in their life into where they're prosperous, they gain a lot of weight or something because they're eating a lot more, because the body tells you like chemically and at your base human instinct, like, okay, I don't know when I'm going to get my next thing, so I'm going to take as much as I can now. And so then you start, even once you have stuff, you still have that ingrained because of that deep trauma of starving. And so you're still consuming as much as possible. So I think about like people in older generations who hoard things. Well, they grew up in the Depression, so they have that societal starvation mentality of like, well, I didn't have this stuff, and so their body has gone into default of, okay, take everything I can because I don't know when I'm not going to have anything anymore. And the same goes for, we talk about like a welfare mentality, and I think it's that same kind of thing. I think it's, I don't agree with the state like welfare mentality and like being such a bad thing. Like it's that same kind of starvation mentality. When you've been deprived of something so often, why would you not try to get everything you can when you can get it?
Absolutely. I mean, it's my dad and I have been talking a lot about scarcity and like a scarcity mindset versus like an abundance mindset. And you kind of transition that to more than just money, but just everything in your life. You know, do you look at your time as scarce, or are your relationships and your, you know, are you coming at all those things from a scarcity, things are about to end, things are going to go bad mindset? Or are you looking at it from like an abundance, like there is enough to go around, we have the resources, you know? And I think to your point, like if we as a society looked at ourselves in more of an abundance mindset rather than a scarcity mindset, like theoretically, I mean, there's no reason why we shouldn't be able to take care of all the people that need to be taken care of if we are abundant.
Yeah.
If we believe ourselves to be, you know what I mean, worthy and resourceful enough and capable enough, even if you aren't, you know, like
Yeah.
if your parents were super poor, but they always treated you like you had an abundance mindset, you would still think of yourself as wealthy and abundant, even though you know what I mean, we're still pinching the same amount of pennies. But if you had a super rich dad that never spent any money and was super frugal and, you know what I mean, was always worrying and making you feel concerned about stuff, then no matter how much money you make for yourself, you're still going to feel like
You don't have enough.
yeah. And in some ways, I think that's something that I've experienced in my life. And my dad have talked about it a lot, is just that I think that one of the things that he kind of struggled with, that I've also struggled with, is that scarcity mindset, and is just kind of spending too much time worrying about how things are all going to work out rather than just, you know what I mean, behaving as though they are in a way. Which is also a fine line, because you don't want to just be ignorant and stupid and, you know, just, you know, pray instead of going to the hospital. I don't know if I should say that, but you know what I mean? Like, for lack of a better term, like, you don't just want to be silly with it, you know, but you want to also kind of realize that there's only so much in your control, and there's only so much that you're ever going to be able to do, and it's okay to just trust that things are going to be okay.
That takes me to this motto that I've kind of been living by the last few years after I hit some rough times, is like, things turn out best for those who make the best of the way things turn out. And I was thinking about this the other day, and talking to my mom about it again too. It's like, we can only ever do what we think is best for a situation, and you're never gonna know what the right, quote unquote, right decision is until you do something. But you have to do something.
Because ultimately, it's just making decisions.
Yeah.
I mean, as far as life goes, there's really no right decision or wrong decision. There's just the decision you make and the decision you didn't make. Why do you feel like that's so stressful? Like, because I feel like I can get so overwhelmed and anxious about making decisions.
You know, I think it's just something that we all work through, because I remember the other day my parents were talking about something, and they pointed at me and like, how did this one get so good at change? And I was like, when did I get good at change? And then I thought about it, and I was like, actually, I kind of really am good at change. And I don't know, there are just certain things in life that we deal with, and we all go on different paths, and that's something we all have to confront at different times. And I don't really necessarily understand why, aside from maybe just the survival instinct, we have that predictive quality in our brain that sees patterns in nature and says, is that a predator or is that a fucking bush? Mm-hmm. And it's that we've just developed so far as humans to where we've gotten to the point where we're still picking out predators, but they're not hiding in bushes and they are not a fucking tiger. Mm-hmm. It's something different. It's abstract things, like the future, and because we cannot see those things actually for certain, it instills that anxiety and that fear. There's also a lot of shame around doing the wrong thing that we've built up, and so those play into each other, that fear and that shame. And I think learning to confront your shame is one of the most beneficial things a person can do, and most people don't learn how to do it, unfortunately. But it frees you in a way that, you know, you didn't know was possible, I think. But it's also really challenging and really difficult.
One of those things like you can't teach, you know, you just kind of slowly pick up on these things over the course of your life. The more life you live, the more you start to see the same patterns and the same happenings kind of, over and over and over again. And you just kind of learn to deal with yourself as well, because I think that sometimes less than even our own conscious mind, but our subconscious is what gets so stressed out and so worried. And it's like in your body is all this anxiety and fear that you're kind of trying to battle. And it's things like that that make me, I think I've said something along these lines before, but it makes me feel like, true or not, that our consciousness is the guardian angel, and the monkey brain, you know, is just your body. It's all those little signals and all those little things, and you are basically the thing that's here, like, figuring it all out for him, because it doesn't fucking know what to do, you know?
And the tough part about that is, this is another thing that I learned from acting, is like the body remembers things the brain does not, and the body remembers them first. And so we have that hardwired nervous system of just everything that's happened to us, and we respond. So often we respond physically, and by physically I even mean like verbally responding with the physical impulse. Even that. We respond physically before we respond consciously. And so one of the big things is just learning to respond slower rather than faster.
Yeah, well, or even just giving yourself time to respond. Teaching yourself how to learn. Teaching yourself how to learn. Learning to listen to your body, you know, is, I think, something that takes a lot of time as well. And getting to know what those feelings and sensations are actually telling you. Because in some ways it's all information. Even the anxiety, the fears, the stresses, all those things are at their core just information. But we've decided that it is a negative experience and that it means something negative, even though inherently that's not necessarily baked into it. None of those feelings have to be negative, even though they often are perceived in a negative way. It doesn't have to mean something negative about you, or it doesn't have to mean that it's not indicative of something being wrong with you. For some reason, it seems like we're all looking for proof that there is, in fact, something wrong with us.
Yeah. Because it's easier to explain away with something being wrong than just like, this is the way it is. Mm-hmm. But, yeah, and so and that's another big thing that I've learned too, is just like, there is no, I shouldn't feel this way. Because you cannot control how you feel, so there isn't I shouldn't feel this way. That it's the way that you're feeling, and so it deserves the space to be felt fully. you can't control how you feel. You can only control how you react and act. So feel whatever you feel. Be as angry as you are, but respond in time, quote, appropriately, which is a general term that is very subjective and, but deciding what that right thing is to do and doing it rather than doing nothing and sitting with the feeling, but also not pushing the feeling away, which is the same thing as doing nothing.
Yeah, I mean, you're basically delaying the inevitable.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Spence, before we close out, you get any nuggets of gold in there, any metaphors or anything that's just on your mind? You're like, this is what I want people to know.
There was something... You were talking about worrying about the future, and I was actually reading a poem by Richard Sykin this morning that I thought really worked with that. And so this is a stanza from it. I just found it. This is more about like sitting with sadness and worrying about the future and stuff like that, and or thinking about the past, looking forward or backward. But it says, I put my sadness in a box. The box went soft and wet and weak at the bottom. I called it Thursday. Today is Sunday. The town is empty. I stood in the road looking forward and back to see if it would change something. After a while, I went back inside and tripped over the box.
What does that mean to you?
It's kind of that same thing we were talking about of like pushing down emotions and whatever. Like you can put your sadness in a box and you can worry about the future and think about the past, hoping something will change, but you're still where you are and you're going to go inside and trip over that box and find it in an unexpected moment.
No, I completely agree. I mean, just because you think nothing ever disappears, you know what I mean? Just because you put it aside, or even sometimes the things that you thought that you actually fully dealt with and, put in the cupboard end up still being in a box that trip you.
It was soggy and wet.
Oh, yeah. All soggy and wet and the bottom falls out. It's terrible.
Yeah.
All right, buddy. Well, I had a hell of a time talking to you. I'm really appreciative that you came on here and wanted to be a part of the show.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me.
You want to give him the outro?
Yo, it's your show. You do it.
Okay.
You do the outro.
Okay.
We got to hear it in that classic Eli tone.
That's true. It's gotta keep it all together. Well, once again, thank you to Spencer and every one of you guys who are watching this. Thank you very much. Happy Sunday and have a great day.